The quantum entanglement chamber hummed with barely contained energy as Nyla cross-referenced the temporal coordinates for the 73rd time. She couldn't afford mistakes, not when humanity's entire legacy depended on the precision of her calculations. The Council's delegation will arrive in 47 minutes, Brian announced from the navigation deck, his voice carrying the weight of exhaustion. They had been preparing for this moment for 3 standard years, ever since the Galactic Council had issued humanity's exile decree. Nyla looked up from her holographic display, her eyes reflecting the cascading data streams. Let them come. They'll find nothing but empty stations and cold reactors. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. 22 centuries ago, humanity had been deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable for the ordered galactic community. The Council, representing 47 advanced civilizations spanning the Virgo supercluster, had voted unanimously. Humanity would be quarantined to their home system, forbidden from expanding beyond the Oort cloud. But the Council had underestimated human ingenuity born from desperation. Brian moved to the viewport, watching the slow rotation of the Kronos Array, humanity's greatest achievement and most carefully guarded secret. 17,000 satellites orbited in perfect synchronization, each one a node in a network that didn't just span space, but time itself. The first seeds should be germinating now, he said quietly. Or rather, they should have germinated 4 billion years ago. Nyla smiled, joining him at the viewport. The beauty of temporal causality manipulation. We didn't break the Council's laws, Brian. We simply chose a different when, rather than a different where. The plan had been audacious to the point of seeming impossible. If humanity couldn't expand outward into the galaxy's present, they would expand backward into its past. Using controlled micro-wormholes stabilized by exotic matter, humanity had sent automated colony ships not across space, but across time, launching them into the distant past of hundreds of worlds that were now barren but would one day be inhabited by Council species. On those primordial worlds, human colonies had grown, not the humans who would be exiled, but their ancestors, seeded millions of years before the Council civilizations even existed. By the time the Zenthari first crawled from their ammonia seas, human settlements had already been thriving on 17 worlds for epochs. When the Korvathi discovered fire, humanity had already mastered fusion on 32 planets in what would become Korvathi space. Temporal prime directive status? Nyla asked, returning to her console. Holding stable. No causality violations detected. The timeline remains internally consistent. Brian pulled up the master chronology. Our past colonies developed independently, evolved their own cultures, technologies, even physiology in some cases. As far as the universe is concerned, they've always been there. That was the genius of it. The exiled humanity of the 24th century hadn't created an empire that existed now, they had created one that had always existed, woven so deeply into the galaxy's history that removing it would unravel causality itself. Council scanners are detecting the array, Brian reported. They're hailing us. Nyla activated the communication system. The holographic form of Executor Thren materialized, his crystalline features reflecting his species' silicon-based biology. We have arrived to enforce the exile decree, Thren stated, his translator rendering the harmonic frequencies into flat words. You will deactivate all extrasolar technology and confine yourselves to the Sol system in perpetuity. Executor Thren, Nyla replied, her voice calm. We are in full compliance with the Council's decree. Humanity will not expand beyond the Oort cloud from this temporal reference point forward. Thren's features shifted in what might have been confusion. Your temporal technology sends no ships into Council space, Nyla interrupted. Not into your present, not into your future. The decree specified spatial boundaries, Executor. You said nothing about temporal ones. Brian brought up the historical records, broadcasting them to the Council ship. We've taken the liberty of providing updated archaeological data from Council worlds. I think you'll find some interesting discoveries. The data flooded across the communication channel. Human settlements on Zenthara dating back 3 million years. Human genetic markers in Korvathi DNA from cross-species cooperation 50,000 years ago. human mathematics underlying the fundamental equations of Zephyrite physics, discovered by them but invented by humans 200 millennia earlier. Humanity hadn't just seeded colonies, they had seeded themselves into the bedrock of galactic civilization. "This is impossible," Thren stammered. "The temporal paradoxes alone are all resolved," Nyla said firmly. "We've been meticulous. The Novikov self-consistency principle holds. No grandfather paradoxes, no timeline branches, just one continuous, self-consistent history where humanity has been part of the galactic community since before most council species achieved sentience." Brian pulled up the final piece of evidence, the Temporal Sovereignty Treaty, a document dated 17,000 years ago, bearing the seals of humanity's past colonies and early council civilizations, guaranteeing humanity's place in the galactic order. "You can't exile us, Executor," Nyla continued. "Not without erasing half the technological innovations your own civilizations claim as their heritage. Not without creating causality violations that would destabilize this entire region of spacetime. We didn't create an empire in your space, Thren. We created one in our time, and our time extends a lot further back than yours." The silence from the council ship stretched for nearly a minute. Brian could imagine the frantic consultations happening aboard. The temporal physicists confirming what their sensors were telling them, the political calculations of what this meant. Finally, Thren spoke, his voice carrying a note of what might have been respect. "The council will need to reconsider its position. You've made yourselves indigenous to our history." "Not made ourselves," Nyla corrected gently. "We've always been here, Executor. You just didn't know to look backward instead of forward." As the council ship withdrew, Brian deactivated the array's defensive protocols. Through the viewport, he could see the stars, the same stars that had witnessed humanity's rise not once, but countless times across the eons. "Think they'll accept it?" he asked. Nyla smiled. "They have no choice. We didn't build an empire that stretched across space, Brian. We built one that stretched across eternity, and you can't exile someone from where they've always been." In the quantum foam of spacetime, 17,000 satellites hummed with the power to reach backward across billions of years, holding in place an empire not of conquest, but of inevitable, inescapable presence, an empire that would exist as long as time itself remembered. Humanity had learned the ultimate lesson. When the present closes its doors, the past opens infinite windows, and through those windows, an empire eternal had already been born.